Hello again, everyone. This is Tony LoPresti here with another edition of Big Questions. I'm from the Religious and Theological Studies Department at Salve Regina University, and today we're going to focus on the issue of technology. And when, specifically, does technology become more of a hindrance than a help? With me today are three of my former students. To my left, Jillian Tulgren, and to her left, Amelia Burke, and then Zachary Harlan. And all three were capstone students with me last fall. And full disclosure, they were all asked as part of the capstone class to conduct a protest. We were studying protest movements of the 1960s, and as a way to kind of put that into contemporary perspective, students were asked to design their own protest, something meaningful to them, and they had basically free rein to go wherever they chose. What they chose to do was to look at the issue of cell phones and their peers' use of cell phones, finding that perhaps they were going a little bit overboard. And maybe there were times when it would be more important to pay more attention to the person in front of you than to the person texting you. So with that, I'd like to ask you, why did you choose this topic? There could have been so many things that you could have talked about, called attention to, protested. Why did this topic rise to the top as what you wanted to spend your time focused on? Zach?
Well, it started, I think, with the article that we read early in the semester. I think it was Christian Smith's article about like the Millennials and stuff, and that was the first article that I had ever really read like about like my generation and seeing it from that like objective view. And like we all came into class the next morning and we're all saying like, wow, we really are like that. Like we really do like depend on them that way. And then the conversation just kept going over like the next 2 months until we finally decided that we should do that for our protests, because so often we talk about how you'll be sitting and having a conversation with your friends and they have no idea what you're talking about because you were on your cell phone for the whole conversation. So I think that and just everything else, it just kind of came in perfectly.
Can any of you say a little more about the millennial generation, what you think the characteristics are of this generation that you think is particularly noteworthy or that may have inspired? We know it's cell phones and some would say almost an addiction to technology, but what about the millennials do we want to call attention to?
I feel as though what I received from the millennial generation article and the conversations we had in class is that we're a generation that's, for lack of a better term, obsessed with materialism and consumer goods, and we generate and gain our satisfaction off of, I guess like our projected persona through social media or through our cell phone, and just we're not, I don't know if I'm explaining that really well. I don't know. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think we're so focused. We're kind of just saying this. We're so focused on social media and how many likes we get, and what pictures, if we look good in our pictures, whatever, that we kind of forget what's going around outside of us. I think is, what's going on in society.
So do you basically concur with what you were reading? Would you say it was an accurate portrayal?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, I do. I think we were also kind of surprised that we just had never really thought of it that way until I think we were almost a little offended at first when we read it. Like,
I was.
Yeah, like, oh, we're not like that. But then thinking about it, like, yeah, we are like that.
And then as you sit there in class and you're sitting there and saying, no, I'm not like this, and you're being offended, and you look to the student next to you and they're texting on their phone saying what? And then it's like, all right, maybe we are
denial.
like that. Yeah.
I hope they weren't doing this in my class.
Oh, no, not yours, the other one.
No.
Yeah. You were on right before. Yeah.
Okay, so you had this idea that maybe you should call attention to how much time students were spending on their cell phones. And I think I've read statistics that say that 59% of young adults in your age group readily admit that they think they spend too much time on their cell phones. Mm-hmm. So you probably had a welcome audience insofar as they would agree with you that, yeah, maybe I do spend too much time. So how did the idea of doing something at Miley Cafeteria come to you?
Whose original idea was it? I think it was yours, right?
Well,
I want to say it was a combination. I think it just...
Because we kept talking about like what we could do to like target millennials, and then we kept reading the different articles about the cell phones and like we just were talking about how, like, even when you're in the Miley Cafeteria, you can't have a conversation, or if you go with, 2 or 3 people, it's guaranteed one person's going to be on their phone, like, at some point the entire time. So we were thinking that because it'll be Thanksgiving dinner for Miley, which is always the most packed dinner of the year, like, even local alumni even come back in to, like, eat. So we figured, like, it's the busiest time, so it would draw the most attention to our cause to do it. And also, with it being Thanksgiving, it's supposed to be a time where you're thankful for the people around you. So it all kind of tied in really well.
Yeah, that's the message I tried to push or press on people the most, because I was walking around the cafeteria and trying to encourage people to participate in our protest. And if I explained it to them and they didn't sound interested at first, I don't want to say I tried to guilt trip them, but I did, and I said, this is Thanksgiving, this is the time where you're supposed to be with your loved ones and be thankful for who you're with, and, really pay attention and literally give thanks for what you have and who you have. Oh, yeah. And I feel like at that point, people started participating, but in the initial introduction of our protest, there was so much apprehension, and I did receive glares, just not nice words, a little. It was disheartening at first. But then when people saw, I think, that we really believed in what we were doing and in our message, that more people started to participate because they felt it. Yeah. But when we were just standing there at first, I feel like it was just kind of an afterthought. Like, people thought we were just crazy.
I also think that, like, at first glance, you don't really see many protests on campus. So I think that almost alarmed them. Yeah. But then once we went in there and explained what we were doing, I think they really responded a lot better than that first, initial impression of it.
I mean, I definitely caught glares, and like what you said about guilting them, but I definitely guilted them into doing it. But because, I mean, the ones that I would have to guilt though were the students that were like pushing me off, like while texting, still like saying like no, like there's no problem, like they're not addicted and so on. But so they're like, oh, that's a silly protest. So like I would always love it, and I would feed into that, and I would take their word silly, and I would explain like, well, isn't it kind of silly that you're sitting here with your 4 roommates and your 2 best friends from class, and isn't it kind of silly that you can't put your phone down for 40 minutes to enjoy Thanksgiving dinner with your family at school, because that's your family while you're at school, is your friends. So, and you'd say that, and they would just kind of look like, oh, well, take my foot out of my mouth.
Well, to people in my generation, it certainly sounds kind of silly. I would never think of being on the telephone while I am having dinner with people. It would be to me, it would be similar to being on the phone now when I'm trying to talk to you. It's like, hold on for a minute, I gotta, respond to a few texts. How far down the slippery slope are we? I mean, is it too late to try to reverse course? Or is this just getting worse and worse, and do you fear for your children that they are going to be so steeped in a technological universe that admittedly has some very wonderful qualities to it? I mean, the power you can have in a cell phone or just in technology in general is amazing. But on the other hand, I think as time is going on, we are beginning to recognize that there's a flip side to phones, and not just flip phones. That we really have to be cautious, that there may come a point where we've been so not indoctrinated, but so influenced by them, it becomes so normal to do what we do that maybe it's almost hard to turn the bend and to maybe retrieve some of what was lost. Are we at the point where there's no turning back, or is the fact that it is a choice, as you put it, leave us with hope that maybe some people can make better choices?
This is when I think I realized how far down like the slope we actually are. We saw this commercial. It's for like a UNICEF project, and we like looked all into it. It is like a legitimate thing. The TAP project. You can Google. It's UNICEF TAP project, and like you put your phone down on the table, you start up the app and everything, and you hit start. And as long as you leave your phone there, I believe it's like every 10 minutes you leave your phone untouched, they donate like 1 day's worth of clean water. And then like every like hour they do something else and so on. But when I realized, I was like, so people don't even have to leave their rooms anymore. They can sit in their bed and just, if they're willing to not touch their phone and not like check on any of their stuff and leave it, they can donate. So like, that to me was amazing, that you don't have to go out and do anything anymore. All you have to do is be willing to not touch your phone. Like, it used to be you have to, go and do stuff, but that was when it really, like, hit me, like, all right, wow, maybe there is something here. But
so is this progress?
I guess it's progress towards the right way, because now they're starting to finally realize that, well, if we have these cell phones and they use it very, very well for, like, advertising now, but
I participated in Tap for UNICEF, and I was disgustingly proud of myself.
Well, see,
it was horrible.
And how long did you do it for, like, on the first time, and you were so proud?
10 minutes.
Like 10 minutes?
Just one day of clean water, one day.
The first day we did it, we had like maybe 4 or 5 people doing it. We all put our phones down, and after, I would say, like an hour, somebody like caved out. They're like, oh man, look, I did 6 days of drinking water.
Yeah.
And then someone else, it was like after like 2.5 hours, like everyone else stopped, and then it was like me and one other person were left. And we left it for like 7-8 hours just because we were playing like other stuff and like not thinking about it. But the people that had like picked up their phones earlier were kind of like mocking us, and they're like, all right, show-offs, like we get it, like you don't need it. But like, why is that showing off? Like we weren't even thinking about the phones because we got so distracted by other stuff, which is good. But then it's funny, it was kind of funny to us that like they were sitting there the whole time like, oh my god, I can't believe they aren't picking up their phones still, like what are they doing? Like, and they could hear our phones buzzing, and that was like giving them anxiety because no one was checking the notifications. But it was just like, that was one of the first like really opening things, I would say.
Yeah, I had a huge ego boost after that. I'll admit it. I'm embarrassed to say it, but I think I was out to breakfast, and it was the last day, because it was March 31st was the last day, and I was like, oh, I gotta do Tap for UNICEF. I think my sister reminded me, and I had it on, and I kept looking over. I was like, 7 minutes. I was like, 8 minutes. Got it, 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, I was applauding myself. My ego just like inflated because I was like, didn't touch my phone and donated clean water. And I feel like, yeah, in that respect, like, is it really bettering us, or is it doing more harm than good? Obviously, donating water is great, wonderful. It has to be done, but isn't there another way that we could do it, I guess?
So you're celebrating the fact that you can go 10 minutes without touching your cell phone other than to tap for UNICEF.
I was.
See, and I'm inclined to say I think you can do even more.
Of course, absolutely. I could have.
Not you personally, but I mean, I think in general, as a generation. Obviously, the three of you have thought about these questions quite a bit. You're very articulate. You've gone through the protest. This is something that's meaningful to you. What's the message that you want to leave with your peers? What have you learned as you've thought through the whole issue of cell phone use, technology, human interaction? What's the most important thing that you think you're going to take away from this and that you hope your peers will remember?
I just think the most important thing is that your cell phone is not your whole world. I think that we need to learn to, at least, for a couple hours a day, have stuff like time to ourselves and not worry about the phone, not check it as much, especially in class. Like, that's getting to be a really big problem, is in class, and you're not even focusing anymore on what you're being taught. So I think just the message I would like to take away is to not focus on my phone and social media so much. Just, what's around me is more important than what's in my phone, I guess. Also,
I mean, I would say just, like, once you put down your phone, like, people will keep saying that, no, it's not a problem, or no, like, I'm not addicted, or no anything, but until they actually, like, put down their phone and, like, take a couple minutes away, do they realize, like, how, like, attached they are. Like, it's easy to say, like, no, I'm not attached to my phone while your phone's sitting in your hand, but to leave it alone for a couple hours and to actually, like, talk to people and challenge yourself to go to class and leave your phone in your room, like, I don't think a lot of people would be able to do something like that. Like, they would have a separation anxiety. But I think really just the message is just to, like, really just enjoy the people around you, enjoy the time, especially in college. Like, it's for the quickest years, and these have been the quickest couple months of my life as we race to the end. But it's just like, enjoy it, and you're not enjoying it if you're on your phone the entire time.
Well, as you say, graduation is not too far away, and that's a big moment. But I'm looking forward to when you come back for your 5th year reunion, because I'd like to hear.
We're putting out the cell phone boats onto the
You're right.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what transpires, and whether the trends and the patterns you've identified have intensified, or you've become more of an agent in your own life, making choices that sometimes go counter to what the rest of the culture is, and what that feels like. Obviously, technology is an issue that's going to be with us for the rest of our lives. This doesn't seem to be going away. And like most things, it presents challenges and opportunities for us. And I think in many cases it's a question of how we choose. Can we maximize the opportunity while at the same time respond to the challenges in a productive way? Lots of discussion about that, lots of good questions that are raised, and I thank you all for coming out and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful. We always ask big questions in the Religious and Theological Studies Department. It's what we do. I know you too ask questions as well. So don't be afraid to stop by, talk to us about big questions. We ask them all the time.